What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Burrow. My name is Jacob, joined by JJ and Richard, as always. And today, a little bit of a family affair, as we have two Metz on the screen in front of you guys today. We got Luke Metz joining us today. He does a lot of Arizona coverage on his own personal YouTube channel, so he's joining us today. Luke, thank you for joining us. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. And Richard, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Jacob. It's great to be here once again.
Yeah, and these two, well, actually, over here, they're going to be leaving very shortly after this recording to be able to go watch the Arizona game live in person. JJ, how excited are you for that?
Yeah, most definitely. It's my Christmas gift, so I'm so excited. I mean, this is the biggest regular season game in FAU history, and I'm beyond excited and lucky and ecstatic to get to Vegas and going to be leaving right after this, and it's set to be what is supposed to be a thrilling matchup between two top 15 teams.
It is very exciting. You're probably gonna be the only person in Las Vegas not losing money this weekend, because I mean, I went there in April, and somehow all the trips to casinos did not lose any money. I actually came away slightly positive. So you're a few years away from that. Again, always, guys, don't bother gambling. It's a very slippery slope, especially sports betting. But before we get into the basketball coverage, we have just a little bit of football to talk about. And that's why Richard specifically is here. Richard has done a lot of work on the website. If you want, you can check out FAUOWLSnest.com for a lot of written work that Richard does. JJ's also done some work over on the website, so check out their content over there. But they've been talking about the coverage of the football team, the new recruits that they've brought on. So Richard, just go ahead and tell us a little bit the going-ons with that.
Yes, definitely, Jacob. Today was a National Early Signing Day, which is a very special day for many players coming straight out of high school, getting to decide which team that they're going to play for the next couple of years of their collegiate career. And for FAU, they did a very good job coming to conclude a National Early Signing Day, getting 15 guys straight out of high school, very talented, very athletic, and very skilled in each of their respective positions. With two of them, an additional two guys being JUCO transfers. And again, 17 total, 15 out of high school, two JUCO transfers. This overall class is just amazing, and is going to boost the overall strength in the football squad for heading into next season. You got guys like Charquez Lee, who was originally committed to East Carolina before switching his allegiance to the Owls. And then Leon Washington Jr., who is the son of a former NFL Pro Bowler, Leon Washington. And then you have other very talented guys in Michael Wright, Jarvis Johnson, Mauricio Hines. Again, these guys are very talented, and you could see on 247 that when it comes to the high school recruits, FAU is in the top 4 among the best high school recruits that they have within their conference. And that's really, it goes to show you how the type of potential this overall class has in helping Coach Herman and the coordinators and the rest of the football team becoming much better for heading into the 2024 season. It's going to be very interesting to see how some of them who will be joining for January prepares themselves for spring camp. It's going to be a very big opportunity for them to impress Coach Herman and the rest of the coaching staff.
Well, it's going to be an exciting time for FAU football next year. Obviously not the greatest of years this year, and a lot of room for guys to step up, in potentially younger guys, as so much experience is walking out of the doors at the end of this year. So a lot of opportunity for some younger guys to come in, take some spots from day one. So that'll be very exciting to keep an eye for, especially we got the spring game coming around in a few months, and then going into the off season properly before fall camp starts back up next year, and hopefully a much better football season out of the FAU football team. But for now, we have, unfortunately, the more exciting team to talk about in FAU. FAU currently 14th in the standings. Very close, very nearly where it was going to be able to play a number 1 team in the country, although Arizona lost last week to Purdue 92-84. And they just could not stop three of Purdue's best players. And like I said, we have Luke here, who's done a lot of work looking at Arizona's team. So Luke, just tell us the basics about this Arizona team. What stands out about this team? What do they do well?
So Tommy Lloyd is the coach of Arizona. It's his third season at Arizona, and he's won 70 of his first 83 games, which is very impressive. He came over as the assistant coach of Gonzaga there under Mark Few, and he was there for so many years, and he kind of took that style from Mark Few and implemented it into his own basketball team with Arizona. They play faster than anybody in the country, and they've been doing that for the full 3 years Tommy Lloyd has been there. And Tommy brought Umar Ballo over from Gonzaga, the center for Arizona, and he's really been his go-to guy. This year, it's a bit more spread out. Last year, it was really Ballo and Tabellis with the high-low passing, getting it into the big men. But this year, it's really spread out. Even this year, more than the past years, they get most of their points through transition basketball. So they get a lot of steals. They try to push the tempo, get it in the forecourt, get easy baskets. If FAU wants to have a chance to beat Arizona, they're going to want to put Arizona in half-court sets, make them slow the pace down, make them try to move the ball. Arizona likes the cut, but sometimes their passing from the guards can lead to turnovers, and that would be something FAU would try to target.
Yeah, most definitely. And I know how you mentioned Umar Ballo in that statement, the very dominant Arizona center. How do you think he's going to match up against FAU center in Vlad Golden? And, what do you expect in that matchup for Saturday's game?
Well, if you watch the Arizona versus Purdue game, you would see Umar Ballo is getting a little bit gassed. Arizona plays a very fast-paced basketball, as I mentioned. Umar Ballo is 7 foot, 260 pounds, and he looks all of that on the court. Big, strong, muscular guy. And running is definitely not his strength, even though he's learned to play fast. And he's dropped a significant amount of weight since he did start with Tommy Lloyd at Gonzaga 4 years ago. So he's gotten better, gotten a bit more endurance, been able to play over 20 minutes a game. But he was getting gassed, and that really cost Arizona because they did a very good job of shutting down Zach Edey in the first half against Purdue. And then you could just see in the second half as the tempo is kind of getting away from them, Ballo was not able to run back and forth. So a big key for him against Vlad Golden would just not to get outrun, just to make sure that he's set on defense, make sure that Vlad is not getting too many transition looks, and that Arizona's not playing themselves too fast, that they're not quick enough to return on the defensive end.
Richard, we've seen FAU struggle a little bit against bigger teams, some teams that are very versatile. We saw last week against St. Bonaventure that they were in the game for a long time, and we were talking about last week's preview about how St. Bonaventure has so many guys that can do so many things in their own defined roles. And this Arizona team kind of exemplifies that, where you have the star guard play in Caleb Love, you have the big play. They have 4 guys on the roster at or above 7 feet. They have the guards and the forwards that we know FAU struggle with when you get into that 6'5" to 6'8" range, and they have quite a few of those on the roster. So how do you think that is going to affect FAU in this game?
Yeah, like as you mentioned, St. Bonaventure, to start off that game, they were off offensively. While they did make up for it by being great on the defensive side of the ball, getting off on the right track to start off against Arizona is going to be very important. Like getting the ball, feeding Vlad Golden the ball inside the paint very early on, having Elijah Martin get going with his 3-point shot, which tends to be very up and down so far to start the season. And of course, Janelle Davis, he has to not only create his shots, but also create opportunities for his fellow teammates, which is going to be very important when it comes to maintaining the crisp ball movement that we know this team is very capable of doing. And Nick Boyd will also be very important. Of course, he's just 1 game removed coming back from a hamstring injury. So his performance will definitely be one of the deciding factors in how FAU does in this game. And then, of course, Vlad Golden. He's extremely important to the OWLS success, especially as a key option in this Owls offense. And if he goes in foul trouble, it's going to be very interesting to see how the Owls adjust, considering the past couple of times this season that they've experienced that situation and needing other guys like Giancarlo Rosado, Brandon Weatherspoon, Trey Carroll in short spurts throughout the game. And of course, everybody else, like everybody's got to be at their best against Arizona. This is a top 5 team in the country. They used to be number 1 before they lost to Purdue. And it would have been a great opportunity to face a number 1 ranked team in the country. It really blows that FAU couldn't have the opportunity. But regardless, they're facing a top 5 team in the country, their highest ever ranked team, highest ever ranked opponent in program history. So the Owls have to be at their best. They cannot let up for even a second.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, JJ, you look at this roster. Caleb Love, he has championship experience over with North Carolina. Keshad Johnson, he's a big, but he can also shoot from the perimeter. Already talked about Amar Ballo, Kelly Larson shooting 60% from 3. There's so many parts of this Arizona team that, as an FAU fan, you should be a little fearful. What one particular player would concern you the most going into Saturday, JJ?
Well, I think when you look at every team, that goes against Arizona, you have to look at Caleb Love, because Caleb Love is one of the most inconsistent players in college basketball. But when he's good, he's so good. When he's playing bad, could lose a game. He could hurt the team, him being on. But when he's playing good, like he did in Purdue, he massively helps the team. He's very up and down, as I mentioned. He's shooting 32% from 3. He's averaging 15.8 points, 85% free throw shooter, and 42% from the field. But the guy that I have been watching and kept a really close eye on is Boswell for Arizona, Kylan Boswell. He's a really good 3-point shooter. And, he was not great in that Purdue game, but in other games, he really single-handedly won games for Arizona. He's averaging 12 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists, 48% from the field. And he is a guy who can shoot the 3 really well. He's shooting 53% from the 3-point line. And, most recently, he's in his best games. He had 18 versus Morgan State, 12 against Duke, 14 against Bellarmine. He's a really dominant 3-point shooter. And, he's a 6'2" guy who, when he gets open, he can really exploit the weaknesses of this FAU defense. So I'm looking out for Boswell and Caleb Love if I'm an FAU, defender. Because if Caleb Love has a really good game, it's hard to stop him. It's hard. He might be one of the best guards in the country, really, for Caleb Love, honestly.
Richard, I think you had your hand up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, to follow up on JJ's point about Boswell being a great 3-point shooter, he's shooting 47.7% from deep. Another point about their 3-point shooting, of the 74 3-pointers they have made, 40 of them have come from either Boswell or Caleb Love. That type of 3-point shooting, like that over-reliance, that potential over-reliance on those 2 guys just knocking it down from deep, it might be a potential flaw for the Wildcats in this matchup, because the Owls know how to guard the perimeter, especially since they are a guard-oriented team, besides the few big men they have on the roster with Vlad Gold, Giancarlo Rosado, etc. So if the Owls are able to lock down the Wildcats on the perimeter, especially Love and Boswell, it's going to be very important for the Arizona to have some of their guys step up in terms of that area of the offense. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the Owls prepare for that with their perimeter defense against Arizona.
Luke, go ahead.
So I think the unsung hero all season for this Arizona team has been Keshad Johnson, and that's a very scary matchup for FAU, as he is a 6'8" power forward, but he plays bigger than he is. He's massive size-wise. He's a big body, draws a lot of contact, great on the defensive end, spaces the floor on offense, hit 2 threes in the first 5 minutes of that Purdue game where Arizona looked like they were rolling. And we saw Marcus Damask, who is a 24% shooter from 3-point range, give FAU problems by getting to mid-range, getting to the hoop, and just imposing his physical presence, because FAU plays with 4 guys that are under 6'5" on the court at the same time. Keshad will be at least 3.5 inches taller than anybody on this FAU team that's guarding him. That could be a problem, as Vlad Golden will have to stay on BURROW, and the size of Arizona will give them an offensive rebounding advantage, which is the last thing FAU needs for a prolific scoring team to be able to get second chance opportunities. And what Richard said about the 3-point shot is definitely true. I don't think this Arizona team relies a lot on the 3-point shot. You know, they take it as it comes. Caleb Love, sometimes when he's feeling hot, will take an extra 3 to just test out how good he's feeling. And then Kylan Boswell took a few garbage 3s at the end of the Purdue game, just trying to force up a shot, trying to get something to go just to keep them within 5 points. It didn't work out. And another player is Jaden Bradley, who comes off the bench, was a 5-star freshman recruited to Alabama last year. Really didn't get that much. He got playing time at the beginning of the season, but his lack of shooting, really, Nate Oates took him out for Javon Quinterly, who is more of the offensive guard. But Jaden transferred over to Arizona and played the majority of that Purdue game instead of Boswell because of his defensive ability. And he's really an old-fashioned guard, gets to the hoop, draws a lot of contact, gets foul shots, and will lock up almost any guard he plays in the country. So those two, I think, are the really ones that stand out, the unsung heroes. Everyone loves to talk about Caleb Love. Everyone loves to talk about Oumar Ballo as really the 2 faces of Arizona basketball. But really, the scoring has been pretty evenly distributed, and there are 7 or 8 guys that can give Arizona a lot of points.
Everybody can score on this Arizona team, and everybody's just so massive. I mean, you've got Oumar Ballo. He goes off the court. I'm totally going to butcher this name.
Monteusz Krivas. Yes, the Lithuanian.
Yeah.
Tommy Lloyd has been famous for going to the Baltic states to recruit people. Pelle Larsson is from there as well. That's where Henry Vasar is, a guy on their team that looked promising last year, really hasn't gotten playing time this year. And that's, of course, where their best player from last year, one of the National Player of the Year candidates, Azulis Tabelis, was from. So they get a lot of players from that area. Monteusz Krivas is a good defender, can really work on his offensive game. He's a great free throw shooter, actually, much better than Ballo. But defense is where he really shines, and doesn't space the floor very well on offense, of course, but, you know, he can be a great presence on defense.
And he's getting serious minutes as a freshman. I mean, he's getting about 12 minutes per game as a freshman, and it's incredible where you can go from a 7-footer as your starting center, you take him off the court, and you only get bigger. You go from 7 foot, 260 pounds to 7'2" and 260 pounds. Like, there's absolutely no drop off. Quite the opposite when it comes to height, but even out the centers, like Caleb Love for a guard is about as tall as any guard on FAU's team at 6'4", 205 pounds. There's just so much size, and there's so much, interior presence on this Arizona team that the size advantage certainly goes the way of Arizona, and that'd be a massive weakness for FAU. But Luke, if you look at this Arizona team, what is their one weakness that stands out to you?
The one weakness is they get caught up in playing too fast. You can see they did turn the ball over a lot in the Duke game, where they had a sizable lead, and it kind of got cut down toward the end of the game as they started to have a lot of turnovers. As JJ mentioned, Caleb Love, one of the best things about him is that he can make a shot from anywhere. One of the worst things about him is that he's unpredictable and can take a shot from anywhere. You really don't want him shooting threes. He's got that quick release that makes me a little bit nervous every time watching him shoot the 3. It kind of just looks like he's heaving it up there like a last-second shot clock violation. And he doesn't have the best shot selection, which can kind of get Arizona a little bit lost. He's one of the oldest players on this team, has had experience in the NCAA tournament. He's supposed to be a leader. But when the younger guys kind of see him taking those shots, everything starts to slowly go downwards for this Arizona team, because then Boswell tries to force up threes. They start playing too fast. They don't get back and defend, and they start to turn the ball over. And that could be something that this feisty FAU defense could control. John L. Davis, one of the leading guards at creating steals and transition points, could really take advantage of that.
Yeah, and right before you go, Richard, I watched a lot of Caleb Love when he was at North Carolina. I got a lot of North Carolina fans in my family, and he's very comparable to Jordan Love in this, or not Jordan Love, Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole of the Washington Wizards, very different player than Jordan Love. Jordan Poole has never met a shot he doesn't like, and he has every ability to hit those shots. He's got, he's not the tallest, but he's quick, he's shifty, he's got a decent shot on him. And when everything looks good, you look at Jordan Poole as he could be potentially one of the best players in the league. But so often you find him falling short of that and just heaving up shots, taking ill-advised shots, and it still looks good while he's doing it. But you always find a way to disappoint and just take ill-advised shots, ill-advised passes. So I think those are two very comparable players that on their night can be really dangerous, can lead your team in scoring, lead you to a win, but he can also equally lead you to a loss. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, well, speaking of Jordan Poole, when it comes to taking shots, he loves to take shots, for better or worse. And Caleb Love, if he has the same mentality, it definitely seems so. He's the only guy on the team who has taken over 100 shots. Everybody else is either 81 or under when it comes to field goal attempts. And he's shooting at 42.5%. So he's definitely a volume shooter in that sense. And inconsistent as it may be when it comes to shooting, he's definitely still a deadly scorer that FU has to watch out for throughout the entirety of Saturday's game, which is going to be very big for FU if they happen to come out victorious in Las Vegas. They just pull off a remarkable upset, and it could possibly propel them to inside the top 10 of the top 25, which is going to be
top 5.
Top 5. Yeah, but at the very least, at the bare minimum, they would be inside the top 10, number 9 or higher. And it would definitely be a remarkable feat for this team in this season, and definitely would be amazing for fans and administration to experience that, pulling off an upset victory over a top 5 ranked team. So it's going to be very interesting to see how FU how they defend Boswell and the perimeter and take care of everybody else on the Wildcat squad.
This is a very deep roster. This is probably the best roster that FAU has played in their entire history. And you look what they've done this year, going to Duke when Duke was number 2 in the country, getting the win there, defeating Michigan State earlier this year at home, and then destroying 23rd ranked Wisconsin. They lost to Purdue, but it wasn't a game to balk at by any means. I mean, you look at Purdue, they had 3 guys above 22 points, including Edey. Edey was their 3rd leading scorer on the day. So one of the best players in the country was Purdue's 3rd leading scorer. It's going to be kind of hard to win when that's the case, when he's getting above 20 points. But we've talked so much about this Arizona team. JJ, when you look at this FAU roster, conversely, who's the one guy you feel like has to step up if FAU wants to come away with a win?
You got to look at big bad Vlad. Vlad Golden needs to step up in this game if FAU wants a chance to win. And really, I think it's the entire, defense sort of as well, because Arizona is averaging 93 points per game. That's one of the highest in the country. So this defense has to play good. But in terms of individual players, it's Vladislav Golden. Vlad Golden, the Russian legend, FAU center, is going to go up against Umar Ballo. That matchup is just going to be, amazing to watch. We're going to see some of the highest played center quality we will see this season with Vlad Golden. Vlad Golden needs to play defense and needs to do it without fouling. Because if you foul out Vlad Golden, that's putting pressure on Giancarlo Rosado, maybe Brennan Lurie, maybe an Isaiah Gaines. And I don't really trust those players to go out and guard Umar Ball or Mateus Krivas. So I think that Vlad Golden needs to play strong defense without fouling. put his arms up, guard inside the perimeter against Umar Bello. And if Vlad Golden has 20 plus points and holds Umar Bello to under 15, this will be a W for FAU.
I certainly hope so, and that is a very good recipe for success for FAU. As long as Vlad can stay on the floor, FAU plays good. It is an incredible difference in numbers. FAU with Vlad on the floor, FAU without Vlad on the floor. It's night and day difference, especially when you're coming against a team that can take out a 7-footer for a 7'2" guy. So these two guys have to be going very soon. So we're going to wrap it up with, like we always do, with our predictions. So Luke, you are the guest here on the channel. So sir, how do you think that game in Las Vegas is going to go?
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. FAU's offense is top 10 this season, number 7. Arizona's offense is number 4 this season, according to the Ken Palm rankings. It should be a high-scoring. FAU can play fast when they want to. They're probably at their best when they are playing fast. I'd say it probably goes in the 80s. I'll say 86 Arizona, 74 FAU. I think it'll be a tightly contested first 10 minutes. Then Arizona will kind of pull away at the end of the first half as FAU's bench has to start getting a little bit more involved. And then Arizona will maintain that lead with a couple of surges from FAU in the second half, but ultimately won't be enough. So 86-74 for the Wildcats.
Mr. Pereira, what were we thinking?
Yeah, like as long as, of course, trying to stop a team that is averaging nearly 93 a game is a very tall task. But if there's any team that can do it, it is FAU. And while I will not say FAU comes out victorious, I do expect this game to be very close, at the very least single digits. It will go down to the wire. And I think it's going to be decided by less than 5 points. Give me Arizona 79, FAU 75.
2-0 so far for Arizona. I know there is zero chance FAU. I don't know, zero chance JJ takes Arizona over FAU. So, sir, go ahead.
Man, been waiting for this for a long time. Very long time.
Pray for times like this.
FAU has had this game circled on their schedule this entire year. This game is their biggest game, non-conference play of the season, and they are going to play like it. They're going to come into Vegas hungry, needing to get that win, and they are going to do it. And it's not going to be particularly close. Give me the Owls 88-74.
Okay.
I was waiting for a curb stop and smash, and I just was going to laugh and roll my eyes, but that's actually pretty reasonable. 14 points. Yeah, it could happen. I absolutely sit here and refuse to say that FAU is ever going to lose a game because they're not, because they're the greatest team to ever exist. So with that, I'm going to give it. It's ever. This is the greatest basketball team of all time. I'm going to say FAU gets the victory. The only way that I think we win is just Caleb Love decides to shoot the ball 25 times and only hit about 4 of them. So I think the pace of play is going to be a really high paced game. Both teams scoring a lot of points. I can see the field goal percentage going down, but the points going up as to what FAU is used to. On the season, you look at FAU scoring 83 points per game. I think both teams are going to get in the 90s. I'm going to go with FAU 96, Arizona 91. So with that is all that we have here today. Or JJ got one more thing? Go ahead.
Yes, so obviously this is Jono Davis's time to shine. We've seen it so far this season. Outside the first 3 or 4 games, he really wasn't that great, but he stepped it up. There was 2 college scouts watching the St. Bonaventure game. One on the Pacers and one on a different team. I expect there to be multiple college scouts in this game, and Jono Davis is going to step up and have 28 points in this game, and he's going to be the guy. He's going to get to the hoop. He's going to shoot the 3 very well, and he's going to dice up Caleb Love and Boswell. He's going to absolutely dice them up. Baby food. They're baby food for Nelly.
That's the one way you could hope FAU could win is we have that one guy take over, There's not as much selfishness, I guess you could say, from our dominant guard, whether that dominant guard you say is Elijah Martin, whether they say that's Janelle Davis. They're more willing to pass the ball off to the rest of their team, whereas Caleb Love, you can get a little shot happy. So we'll have to wait and see. That game is going to be on Saturday on Fox, 3 o'clock. These gentlemen here will be at the game. So hope you guys enjoy it. Have a good flight. Till then, let us know your predictions down below in the comments. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for more FAU content. Go over to FAUOwlsNest.com to check out some work from our own Richard Pereira and JJ Metz. JJ, you got something else to say before we go?
No, I'm just doing the owl sign.
Oh, fair enough. All right. Well, thank y'all very much for watching. Appreciate y'all. Like, subscribe. Have the rest of your day. Go Owls.